What's up, everyone? Welcome to the XploVerse Podcast. So, today we have a very special guest with us, RJ Ahmed. RJ Ahmed is a podcast host who have done episodes with top entrepreneurs around the world and the entrepreneurs worth of around $700 million net worth. So, and he's also the coach, the consultant. So, let's welcome RJ and let's, dig deep down his life journey.
Hey bro, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Hey, RJ, how are you, brother?
Good bro. What about you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. So, what's you been? How's your day?
Day was pretty good. Yesterday was complete hectic day because of my part-time university I have. So
Okay,
yeah, today was a great day.
okay. Sounds good.
What
Sounds
about
good.
you?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. The weather was nice in the evening, so it's pretty good. So,
Awesome.
RJ, let's start. First of all, let's start with your life journey. That how did you end up becoming an RJ? So,
Hmm.
what's life been overall?
Well, okay, fun fact about me being RJ, let me be very clear around that. So most of the people out there know like RJ means radio jockey, the person who is into radio thing. But for me, that's not the case.
Yeah.
So I had a nickname called Raja, which means kind of like a king or so. So when I started in the space, I was like, it is not looking good because my name on Facebook was Raja Ahmed, and the people who are living in US or UK or in these countries out there, they kind of like pronounce it as Raha, and I was like, really, like it doesn't making any sense. So I was like, there have to be something out there that can still associate with it, and it could also be making sense and all of that. I was like, what could be make sense? And then I was like, okay, RJ makes sense, sounds good. I went
Yeah.
on GoDaddy, checked out the domain. I was like, that's available. I'm like, cool, let it be RJ Ahmed. And, it's still here for a couple of years now.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of like your alias in like
Yeah.
of your yeah. Sounds good, sounds good. So RJ, let's start with your the life story of your background, where you brought up, and how's life been overall.
Life been overall great. I think in July it's gonna be 5 years since I'm in Pakistan. So most of you guys who don't know about, I'm born and raised in Saudi Arabia. I spent my whole life over there. I never been to Pakistan before, which was also the other side of the story. So, I was teaching tuition with my mother out there. I was making around $100 a month. So life was great over there because I had a different set of mindset, different set of goals in my mind. Like I'm gonna
Hmm.
do a job, get a degree, and all of those things was my initial goal.
Yeah.
And life was simple as there as well. Never felt like it was miserable or things like that. So it was going pretty good. But all of a sudden we moved to Pakistan. That was the point when things shifted for us because we were in new country, between new people, new mindset. I felt like I was landed to Mars because that was our first time being in Pakistan. So the culture was like
Yeah,
mostly different.
it was like total 180 degrees. Yeah,
Yeah,
total.
completely. It's like
Like,
270 degree,
so just-
honestly. Yeah, like it was like just like what's happening. So then I finished my college and I haven't got myself admission in the university. So during that time, I was getting like taunts and this like cousins got admissions. Like common thing happens with most of the Asian people out there. So I haven't got admission in the university. I was free for almost like probably 6 months. So during that time, I got somehow I saw a Facebook ad. It was around e-commerce, and it got me interested. So that's how my interest developed into it. So like a lot of things been changed in the last 5 years now, and honestly, I'm super proud of it as well. And I believe what happens for a reason as well. In the initial start, you just don't understand it, but later down the road, you get what happened to you.
yeah, so it's just in the later part of the life, it's just like connecting the dots backward, and then you realize
Yeah,
that
yeah,
yeah, man, it's life's been pretty a roller coaster. So,
definitely.
RJ, let's. It's been really nice to know about your brought up and how did you end up being in the Pakistan. So, what was the how did you end up becoming a podcast host? Because it's pretty it's out of the norm. It's not really common. So, how did you
Yeah.
end up becoming in this domain particularly?
So, in 2019, as I mentioned, in 2018, I started this online stuff out there. So I was into affiliate marketing in early 2019, figuring out how to make money online. And, it took me like 6 months to make my first $100 as well, which is not a pretty bad amount for a guy who was 18 or 19-year-old in a hostel.
Yeah.
So, not a bad amount at all. Like at least he can cover up his expenses. So I was in a course. It's called the One Funnel Away Challenge, and in that course, they talk about the concept of the Dream 100. Okay, so that is actually if most people don't know and haven't heard about what Dream 100 is, it's a concept of how to build relationship with the top influencers in your niche or in your industry. So that's what the concept is, and on that, they define the one of the best ways to do it is to interview people. So I was like, okay,
Yeah, totally.
that's awesome, but the problem was, I had some objections. I was an introvert. I'm not now, but I was an introvert. I might not look pretty on camera. That's why I have all of these props to just look myself pretty. So
Nah,
I
nah,
might not look.
I think
so
you're doing pretty good.
so I might not look pretty on camera, and English wasn't our first language. So all of these were my objections. I was like, like how can I go and overcome those? So I did an interview with Alex Elliott. He was actually my very first guest for a general interview I did in my Facebook group. It was completely raw. I didn't have good lighting, good mic, good camera, nothing. It was 4 a.m. I was on my hostel. No perfect light camera, like no, nothing like that. But I did it just because I wanted to do it particularly, because when I realized that this is the only way to build connections with the top influencers, top entrepreneurs that I watch forward, I was like, I have to do it regardless of the situations and all of those things. So that's how I started the basic interview structures in the 2019. What I realized now in Pakistan, in the last couple of years out there, not a lot of people out there were even aware of podcast in 2019 as well. I saw there are
Yeah,
hardly some known people out there that were doing podcast, but mostly none of them were doing it, in the international base out there. Hardly anyone, I possibly know of. So that was the time when I started to do journal interviews. In early 2020, I wanted to interview a guy. His name is Spencer Makem. He is a multi-seven-figure affiliate marketer. I wanted to have him on the show. He was the guy I looked up to when I started my affiliate marketing. So I was like fanboying and all of those things out there. I was like, I have to get you on my show, because now I wanted to start a show particularly, not just a group where I'm interviewing all of those people out there. I wanted to make it specific as an interview-based show. So I reached out to that guy. He was like, yeah, man, I would love to be the part of it, but in a couple of months, because I'm going in an event, I'm going to get back. There's so many things to do. I was like,
okay.
cool. I have to get you as my first guest. I don't mind to wait for like 2 months. I can wait.
Yeah,
I have to
totally.
get you as my first guest. So I got him the first guest on the show, and it was a time of COVID. So, everything closed down. So I was at my home. So when I did the interview, I felt like it was messed up, because since I was fanboying, so I was overly excited. I felt like, I was asking ridiculous questions, which, you take imperfect actions in the initial start, but, I felt like that I was asking ridiculous questions. So when the interview ended, I was like, Spencer gonna hate me, not gonna like me. And so all of those thoughts was getting into my mind as I did the first interview. But I felt like that was an achievement for me as well, because I looked up to that guy particularly.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, so my second, third, fourth, like most of the guys that I interviewed in the initial start were someone who were like making millions of dollars particularly. So most of the people out there was like, how you even interviewing these people? The reason why most people felt it differently, because I wasn't the only guy who was interviewing these people out there. The reason why they were looking at differently is because I'm living in Pakistan, living in a tier 3 country particularly. English is not our first language, and I was able to interview these people on the show. Like, how they even saying yes?
Yeah,
Because
totally, totally.
because they get the opportunity a lot of times to, and they says no a lot of time as well, which, everyone understands they don't have time. So when I did my 10th and 11th interview particularly, I started to realize what I'm doing actually. It wasn't, just a fluke. It wasn't like just, I'm just trying to figure. I started to understand what is my process and how I'm interviewing other people. And then I realized the guests started to love it too. I built like huge relationship with them. They came to my show like multiple times as well, which was crazy. They really get on shows multiple times. So then I started to realize how everything is getting into play. So that's how, the journey of interviews started out. And, ever since we're still doing it, no plans of stopping it at all. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I was watching your interviews, and I'm really inspired by all of all the top tier guests, and I mean it's pretty amazing. So,
Okay.
Arjun, what do you think? What are the core skills for a podcaster or for someone who's just starting? What are the core skills? You know,
Well, the first skill is taking imperfect action. you know it is actually something like while publishing, it could be in any type of content. While publishing, everyone searches a lot for a lot of things, like I have to figure out what mic to use, and like all of those things out there, and they take
yeah, true.
forever to publish anything. And it is also based on the podcast as well. They take forever to publish it. But what you initially need is like something for an audio, maybe something for a video, because in the initial start, when you're starting out, nobody really cares about how you look.
Hmm.
It is all about like what you offer to the audience.
Right.
You know, in any form of content. I have so many videos that I've posted on YouTube as well, which was like how to or review based videos that I posted on YouTube. I wasn't looking pretty at all. Like there was nothing. But the point was there was a content that they actually needed. They got it, and it was valuable for them. None of them have actually said like, "Hey, bro, get a mic, bro, get a camera."
Yeah.
Whatever they wanted, they needed it, and they got it. That is the first thing. Taking imperfect action.
All right.
The second thing is when you get the guest on your show, just make sure don't be overly excited. Be
Hmm.
grateful,
Hmm.
be respectful, just don't be overexcited. As I mentioned, I've done that a couple of times in the past. That is one of the reasons why I just don't do it now in this way. I feel I feel butterflies, but I just don't show it up front. I show them the respect, but I never do it. I can do like oh my god, all of these things in the back end, or share it with my people, share it with the audience, but not like directly with them.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure they see it later, but that's the other side of the story. So when you get the guest on the show, just make sure to do it in that way. The last thing particularly is making sure that you make the experience better. You
Hmm.
know, everyone, even in Pakistan or out of the world, you might have heard the phrase, which is network is your net worth.
Yeah.
So when you're getting these people out there on your podcast, you have the ability to build those connections. You have those time, everything in place to make those connections out there. But for that, just don't do the podcast for the sake of doing it.
Hmm.
Doing it with the intention, so that even when I started out, I started with an intention, particularly that I wanted to connect with a lot of entrepreneurs out there.
Hmm.
It was just kind of like an irony that it actually changed, that I started to not only to teach people out there this exact same thing which I was doing, I started to do it for my clients as well.
All right.
Because it wasn't planned at all. I was doing different things, it just shifted and it happened. So these are the main essentials out there that I recommend to every single person out there if they're even thinking about starting a podcast. Don't think about a better camera, mic, lighting, anything.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So the basic thing is that a person should have a go-to attitude, and
Yep.
when we go to the perfections, then it's just keep delaying and delaying and delaying, and it just never started. So we just have to do, it's kind of like action.
Yeah,
So
100%.
yeah. So RJ, another thing which is one of the main things. So a beginner just set up all the audios and all the essentials or whatever he has. So the main problem is how to approach the guests. I mean, this is one of the really,
Yeah.
it's the core of the whole. If you don't have a guest, you don't have a podcast, you don't have a show. So that's your main core. So how you
Yeah.
approach or how you pitch to the guests as a
You
beginner.
know, funny enough, I was in a call with a guy yesterday. He was from Karachi, and he was like, "Bro, like, how you actually do it? Like, tell me the actual recipe." And I sent him the script I used, and I was like, "Is that it?" I was like, "Yeah, you might not believe it, but yeah." So particularly, what initially happened is anytime you want to, since I learned it from great marketers, I understood the fundamentals, which is actually even I apply here in Pakistan as well. When I go to
Hmm.
events or things like that, I know like all of the influencers who are pretty well known. The general audience we have kind of like rush them like like a fanboy, you know. They can't create their uniqueness at all. So when I go
Hmm.
there, when I meet with those people out there, I start conversation differently so that at one point they can remember who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what happened recently as well, when I went to the event as well, because my mindset around building relationship is far different than a lot of people does. And because they go in a masses, they do what everyone does, and that's why it initially happens, which gives me the slighter edge over them. That's the exact same thing I do online as well. So the people I want to interview, I make sure I create my uniqueness. First of all, you create your existence, then it comes uniqueness. Okay, so for creating your existence, you have to make sure that either you're posting valuable comments around in their world, which could be their Facebook group or their profile, could be anything. You're making valuable comments, you're omnipresent, so that first of all, you're creating your existence, you're coming on their profile, on their feed like multiple times. First of all, now they know you exist. Second thing
Right.
is, you make sure you give value to them, and value, it could be in so many different ways. For me, what I was particularly doing in the initial start was, they had their own Facebook groups. I was either posting helpful content, or I was like helping their other group members out there in comments, things like that, so they knew I was a valuable person, because these two things are important. And then the third thing was getting into their inbox. That is also important. They get like hundreds of messages out there.
Yeah,
You have to
totally.
get into the inbox, and you can do it particularly if you already done the very first two things, creating existence and providing the value. You can ask them to check your message out particularly, and they would love to. There could be exceptional case, which usually happens, but most of the time they'll check your message out there, because they're like, that person is providing so much value, why not I check the message, particularly. So they just go in and check the message. And I do have a script as well, which is definitely free. I will send you guys as well, so you can check that out. And that's the exact same script I'm still using now. So if you can use it, if you want to use it freely, you can 100%. And that is a super simple script I sent to them, and they're like, cool. Because here's the thing, they can say yes, that's cool, they can say no, that's also cool as well. Because even if they say no, we can ask, okay, when, like, what's the criteria,
Yeah.
when we can make it happen. Well, recently I interviewed like Rachel Peterson. She's been known as a queen of social media. The point was, it took me 2 years to book her up. It wasn't like I wasn't in her inbox. It was like for the last 2 years, she was super, super busy. I was always under her radar. She knew who I was. One of the reasons why, because during that time I reached out to her, and by the time I booked her,
Hmm.
during that time I've done 80 plus interviews, and probably 90 plus of our close friends were on my show. So she knew who I was.
Okay.
But the point over that was that when she was like, oh, finally got time. You are the very first person out there that that I'm getting on as a guest, particularly. So I was like, that's cool. That's amazing. And then she started to get on other shows as well, because she gave me a priority. She gave me more time, more attention, only because of the consistency I had.
Yeah.
So that is like the couple of things out there that most people need to understand while doing it. And yeah, like finding great guests is definitely a challenge.
I mean, what I totally love about is your consistency, because like 2 years, man, it's really it's really a long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
the other two things, I mean, I think these are the things which most people usually miss, that increase your visibility, increase your increase your interaction. So in the subconscious mind, whenever they can see your name scrolling around and around, so usually in the subconscious mind
yeah,
they know who you are, and they know
100%.
and they know about your existence. Totally love it, totally love it. So regarding this, so is this the same strategy how you approach how high ticketing clients as well?
Well, so as I mentioned, I was doing affiliate marketing and things like that. And particularly in the last couple of years, since I started doing this, show stuff, people wanted to learn this directly from me, which shifted me to teaching this exact same thing which I was doing, which is something out there I would recommend. Teach people out there that you do for yourself as well, And people knew that I was doing this exact same thing out there consistently when I started out, still now. So people know, like, okay, I'm the good person. So for me, things were kind of different. It was like people knew, well, yeah, you have to have something out there in order to get those people out there. So they knew I was doing this for myself. So I don't need to like provide them some kind of resume or things like that, because they saw me doing that for myself. So when they wanted me to help them out, they don't ask me the next question. They're like, when we can get started, because they don't have any particular question, because they saw me doing that so many times. Actually, from 83 interviews I have done 52 consistently for 52 weeks. It was like 1 year consistent interviews that I've done. And it wasn't like, interviews for the sake of it. They were like 6, 7, 8 figure entrepreneurs. And then later on, we got like some 9 figure entrepreneurs as well on the show, which was, sort of like crazy, kind of like working for a billionaire on the show. We're gonna get it for sure, inshallah. But yeah, the point initially is thing was kind of different for me, particularly because of the audience I had. So they were like, they knew what I was doing. So they had that in their mind, like whenever they're gonna do this thing, they know where to go for.
Right,
So
right.
that situation was different for me particularly. But yeah, like I helped out a lot of people out there in like high ticket client and all of those things as well.
Okay, so for what I understood is you have such a great portfolio, and whenever the high ticketing clients approach you, so they knew exactly who you are. So
Yeah.
for as a beginner who don't have such kind of portfolio or who's just getting started, so what do you suggest to just approach them directly or just starting from the low ticketing clients and then climb the ladder?
So, very first thing initially is you build your portfolio, either do it by doing something, either giving them free calls, free sessions, something for free out there as a value so that you build your portfolio. You have to
Hmm.
build your portfolio from somewhere, and you can do it. A lot of times out there when we got some clients, we did something for free in the initial start so that we can create that, thing in their mind, like how they have to get to us in order to get things done. So
Yeah.
even though we had a portfolio, but anyone out there who starts out, they can help out other people for free in the initial start, get some kind of testimonials or things like that to get their portfolio, and then like use that to get other high ticket clients as well. Actually, it's all about the confidence you have to charge those people.
Right.
In anywhere out there, you're going to see sometimes the person who is doing the low ticket stuff versus doing the high ticket stuff, they're actually doing the exact same thing.
Hmm.
But the point is the confidence that both of them had when it comes to charging them, and make sure they have their peace of mind, like okay, what they charge was worth it, is the main difference. I was in that situation for a lot of time, and there were a lot of friends out there who told me like you have to charge me, you have. So like they had that things in they actually forced me to level up particularly, and that's the other part of the story. So yeah, that is something out there that I would recommend if you're starting out. Doesn't matter how low ticket client or whatever,
Hmm.
you have to build your portfolio first and then go for high ticket clients out there, and build a relationship in a way where it is sustainable for a long term. I have some clients or customers, you could say, for more than like 2 years, probably 26, 27 months, and I'm like, this is crazy. So yeah.
Yeah, totally love it. Totally love it. So, I totally love it. The advice which you are given that in order to, reach first, you have to build your portfolio, and then, eventually you can create your old stuff. So, RJ, let's talk about the mentality, a go-to mentality. I mean, of course, in your whole career, as you have been doing podcasts for over like 2 years, for I think 2 years, for more than two
Yeah.
years. So, in the whole journey, I'm sure you have also heard too many no's too.
Yep,
So how
100%.
how to deal with that without getting disheartened, without getting demotivated, and just keep your energy up? Because a lot of beginners, they just start sending a journal script to each and every one guest, and then whenever they see so many no's, and in almost like 90% cases, they aren't even replying. So how to deal with such stuff, to keep yourself motivated or to keep your
you know
energy?
Honestly, I what I taught to my students out there as well. I told them no is never a problem. you
Hmm.
know when you get a no, the second question you ask them, okay, when we can make it happen. And they always give you possibility, they always give you a milestone, they always give you criteria. I remember I got Steve Larson. He's pretty well known in ClickFunnels space and all. When I reached out to him for the very first time, they told me I have to do, I think, 20 episodes or things like that to get him on the show, or
Okay.
like 50 views per episode. There was a criteria. And I, even though it was a no, there was a criteria for it. It's far better than someone ghosting you, someone is not even replying your message.
Yeah,
And
totally.
so that first thing, which you get to know, you always get a criteria. You can ask them like, what is the criteria? Is it like 10,000 subscribers or like 10,000 followers? Even if you get the followers, you're like, okay, cool. When I get to there, I can get that person out there for sure. If let's say Gary Vee or like these type of people out there gonna
Hmm.
say me like, if you do like 500 episodes, I'm gonna be on your show. I'm like, cool, now I get the criteria. Even if it took me like 5 years to get him, and he's there, I can have him on the show on 500 episodes. I don't
Yeah.
mind doing it. So for all the no's, you always can ask the criteria. So when I got Steve Larson on the show for the first time, I actually crushed that interview. He loved it so much that he next time her assistant reached out to me like to have Steve on the show again. Only because of that thing. So that is the very first thing. I don't know. So never get demotivated. Always ask when is the best time to get them back. When
Totally.
it comes about ghosting, when someone goes to you have to try. Sometimes they're busy, sometimes they're not even checking their messages, they have
Yeah.
virtual assistants who are checking their messages, so you have to make sure you actually try to reach them out on a multiple platforms
Hmm.
just to see if it was actually them. I never get disheartened by a person not replying in the message on, and that's my honest opinion. Even in the initial start, I haven't got disheartened, but sometimes it initially happens that with a couple of guests, and I'm not going to name them, but sometimes it initially happens that I haven't enjoyed the interview, you know
Okay. Okay.
and I learned it from one of the guy I interviewed who was amazing. His name was Umar Ilater. He said that not every person is the same, not every millionaire is the same as well. As someone is more rich, someone is wealthy, someone is more ethical, so you can't relate to everyone. So the some of the people out there that I got on the show, I felt like it wasn't relatable to me at all.
Yeah.
I haven't enjoyed it. I was like,
Okay.
I really messed it up. That is actually what my experience was. And sometimes I did get disheartened because of those interviews. Not particularly I get no's,
Hmm.
but then the next interview actually helped me to boost me up. I'm like, I'm back on the track. So this is the only thing that happened for me particularly. Never take no as a problem. I remember I read in a book where it said no is also an interest. So something that is an interest, it can be changed to a yes as well later on. The question is when. So yeah, that is what my advice is. And if someone is ghosting you, try some other platforms, try to reach out to them, have a conversation somehow. And then if someone said like, I'm not even interested, that's a different kind of story. But most of the time it doesn't happen like that.
Right, right, right. So totally, totally love that. Totally love that. So RJ, what was your, the best so far, the best, the interview which you really enjoyed to your core? Like, man, this is my, one of the best experience I ever had.
Well, honestly, I can't name one only because
Okay, okay.
there was, yeah, 100%, like 83 interviews, choosing one is like
Yeah,
really
it's
hard.
too much.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
there are some interviews which are really, close to the heart. Man,
yeah.
I totally nailed it.
Yeah, so I would name down probably three interviews. The very first is definitely gonna be with Umar Elator. He's actually one of those guys I follow a lot. He have a podcast called The Passionate Few. He have
Okay.
interviewed $10 billion worth of entrepreneurs. He interviewed like founder of Netflix, founder of Reebok, founder of Cheetos, billionaires. So he's actually one of those guys I look up to. And when I interviewed him, it was like crazy. It was like one of the best experiences I had because since I was looking up to that guy, like while doing interviews, I really wanted to get that person. And
Hmm.
he gave mic drop lessons. I actually posted the reel recently as well around Umar. He said about crazy things. But that is the very first person. The second person is Steve Larson. For Steve Larson, as I mentioned, like her assistant gave me a criteria to get him
Yeah.
on the show. When I got Steve, there was a lot of hype. 60 people were watching it live, and I didn't have even time to check out those comments out there. While there was so many comments out there, I just wanted to do the full attention to the interview with Steve I had, because I learned a lot of things from Steve when I started out. So it was a huge honor for me to getting him on the show, and I was like, oh wow, I can. When I finished the show, I was like, oh, I can't believe it, I've done that. It was a huge thing for me for doing it. And the third was particularly with Myron Golden. He is one of those guys who is all about wealth, money mindset, and all of those things out there. And he actually hijacked my show. I was in COVID. I was doing that interview particularly. He literally hijacked my whole show. Like, let me show you guys how to do this. I was like, I have to get. So if I nail down three interviews, these are 100% the three top three out there that I had, and I'm super proud of it.
Totally love it. Totally love it. I watched one of your interview where I forgot the name of the guest, but the guest is totally into it. He was just sharing his slides, his screens, and totally explained. And so, how was that experience? I mean, that was a pretty interactive session
Well,
there.
I believe it was Marion Goldman, because there was only a couple of guys out there who kind of like shared their slides or
Yeah,
their whiteboards to teach about stuff. So that is actually something that is, they're putting even extra effort to
yeah,
teach to the
totally.
audience. But that is also one of the reason why like Marion Golden's interview was pretty special. And there was other guy whose name is Parthiv Shah. He was from India, who did something similar out there, but they put their time in order to teach a fundamental particularly. So that means a lot. That is why building the experience for them while doing the show is important, so that they get even more comfortable with you. So they love to be the part of your show, and they love to be connected with you after the shows goes off or everything like that. So it was definitely a great experience.
Right, right, right. Totally love it. Totally love it. So, Ajay, tell us about a little thing about your, we have covered your whole journey, your whole podcasting, how you approach the clients. So, let's talk a little bit about, your coaching. If someone really wants to, get trained by you, or how this whole things works, how to approach you, and how, you coach them, you train them, or whatever you teach them.
Well, I do have a program called the High Ticket Show Accelerator, where I teach entrepreneurs how to create, grow, and monetize their business using what I call a high ticket show. So
Okay.
I help those people out there build their interview based podcast from scratch. Not only that, to get all of those people out there on your show, but also to monetize it as well.
Right, right.
That is because you have to make money at the end of the day as well. A
Yeah.
lot of people out there start podcasts, they are not profitable, or they're waiting for waiting for the ad revenue coming on particularly. So yeah, that is what I teach. So if anyone who's particularly want to be interested or want to be a part of it, you can either reach out to me on Facebook. You can message me over there, and like we can 100% talk about it.
Totally love it. Totally love it. So I mean, it's like a month. It's like month based program. What's the
It's
total
actually a
duration?
course. It is actually a course where I teach people out there. I try to make it even more simplify. Then we have our own community, particularly, which I made it super simplified.
Hmm.
They might have couple of questions, not much. I had a guy who used my script. He was 13-year-old from Multan. He booked a seven-figure entrepreneur on his show. He haven't done the interview because he haven't had many resources, but he was able to book him. So that was huge. A 13-year-old, I can't even
I mean,
remember, like,
that's pretty amazing.
yeah,
30.
that's crazy. So he was like, bro, like I've done that. I'm like, oh, okay, bro, that's super cool. So yeah, like that's how the course particularly is, because on our retainers, that is our done for you offer. We do with our clients who are making like six-figure per year bare minimum. So yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing. So any last advice for aspiring podcasters, or who are just, before we just wrap it up, any last words, suggestions, how to start up for the beginners who want to jump deep dive into this domain particularly.
The last thing that I actually want to say is, particularly, don't compare yourself with anyone. I heard that a couple of times out there, and I see, and I believe that on every level, every person does that. They compare
Hmm.
someone out there who is on a higher level, uh, on every level. But it's all about you versus you, and you versus yesterday. That's what the main thing. So if you start to compare yourself out there, you're gonna be like, they have done, like, they're doing like these things out there, but you don't understand the backstory. Like, maybe they've started like probably way earlier than you. Maybe they had more resources. So you just don't understand all of those things out there, and they create assumptions. So anyone who is starting out, just do it. Don't compare yourself with anyone out there. If you're gonna start comparing out there, you're never gonna do it.
Totally love it. Totally love it. Really love the insights. When you start comparing yourself, you're already at the bottom of the stage. So
Yep.
you lose your individuality. You lose your uniqueness. You lose your own sense of belonging. So I mean, it's pretty important to keep yourself, and I mean, to have a go-to attitude. So thank you, RJ. It was really a nice knowing you, your whole backstory. How do you end up being into the podcast, and I really enjoyed the whole conversation. It was really
Thank you so
nice.
much, bro. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. Take care. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Hit the like button and subscribe. Till the next episode, take care. Goodbye.